I've just got a lot of stuff that I want to get to you, and yeah, I'm going to do it in a pretty quick fashion here. So, all right. So like I was saying, this is the try to Google presentation. So if you're ever gone, you know, check this out. Okay. So what the heck are we going to be studying U.S. History B? This is a little bit different than, you know, most U.S. history classes. I'm sure you're familiar. And we do it a little bit different here at Farmington in that we don't just go chronological. Okay. So what you studied last trimester in U.S. History A was basically the American dream and the American experience. Okay. And then anything that fit into those categories, according to your teacher, is what you learned. Okay. So this one is going to be a little more chronological in that what we're talking about here is expansion and influence. And then we're kind of wrapping up with the Industrial Revolution. Okay, so what the heck does that mean? Well, we're going to be talking already from the get-go today about U.S. foreign policy. So you guys remembered, at least in some capacity last trimester, I'm sure that you talked about the political spectrum. You know, radical, liberal, moderate, conservative, reactionary. We would always bring things back to that being a perspective and where things would lie on the political spectrum. That's kind of what we're going to be doing this trimester, but it's going to be tied in largely with the foreign policy spectrum. So what we learn about today is going to be able to tie into a good number of things that we've got going on this entire trimester, okay? But this just kind of gives you an idea of what we're going to be talking about. So, you know, week one or in, you know, class period today, we're going to start talking about the foreign policy spectrum and what I call bigger chunks. Like the bigger like land acquisitions that the United States, like the continental United States has. And then we'll begin the American Revolution later in the week. So this is basically, you know, a good shell of what we're going to be doing. So you guys have seen this. This is basically like the schedule of when we're going to be meeting. So on the, you guys are second hour, so we are meeting on the even classes. If you were in one of my odd classes, that would be one of the green ones here. Okay. Generally speaking, you know, we're going to be meeting about this time period, 9:59, 10 o'clock. Like I said, we'll rarely go the entire, you know, hour and a half. It's mostly just that I can touch base with you if you have any questions, and then I'll give you the work that you're going to have for that particular day, that particular week. Okay. So what are we going to be doing today? This is basically your template here. Okay. We're just kind of telling you what class is going to be like. What we're going to be doing day to day, you know, how is attendance going to look? We'll get into that right now. So attendance for the most part, folks, is going to be, did you participate in, you know, the Google presentation for that, or excuse me, the Google Meet for that particular day, like just to check in. Now, if there's some circumstance in which you've got like a doctor's appointment or you're just not going to be there, that's fine. You can just email me and we'll check in about that, and I will count you as present for that particular day as long as you're being proactive about it. So administration wants us to be a little more proactive with attendance and not so laissez-faire like we were last time. But it's not necessarily like if you're absent, you know, I mean, nobody's going to, you know, kick down your door and ask where you are. It's basically just making sure that we are being accountable for what kids are participating in class that particular day. Okay. So first thing that I want you to do right now is I want everybody to go on to Schoology, and we are going to complete a Google form basically as a, it's just kind of a touch point in that I want to see, you know, how to contact you. If you need a phone call or anything like that, I want to know if anything's going on at home, like meaning like, do you have like a job during the course of the day? And what I mean by that is like taking care of your family members, that type of thing. Okay. So, and I'll show you what that Schoology course looks like here in a little bit. We're going to take a look at some new terms because you're already going to have a quiz on those foreign policy terms coming up next, this Thursday. And then that bigger chunks deal is going to be a quiz on Thursday as well. So let's take a look at what your Schoology course looks like. So this is that trimester 2 Google presentation that I was just showing you. Okay. So if you, like I said, if you're ever kind of lost as to what happened in class that particular day, just simply click on this and you'll be able to view it. Okay. This getting to know you survey is what I would like you to do right now. And in fact, that's going to be my attendance piece for today. If you go on and you complete that attendance piece or you complete that Google form, that's what I'm going to be using to get attendance logged for today. So I will give everybody just a minute here to take that survey. Okay, I see that some of you are already finishing up the little getting to know you survey. I'll give you just one more minute here. Okay, we look pretty close here. So I'm going to get going on the next part here in Schoology. So first folder that you should see open there is the foreign policy folder. Okay, and what I want you to do, one of the things I want you to do today and before next week is I want you to study up on these terms right here on Quizlet. Okay, so we'll have, there's about 20 or so little terms that you're going to want to study up on because that is going to be the first term quiz that we take in the last part of the week here, okay? Also, take note that on this side, okay, on this side over here, this is where you're going to be able to see when due dates are, okay? So check Infinite Campus for updated grades and where exactly the grades are, where your grades are for you right now. Okay, but check out Schoology in this part of the calendar over here for when due dates are. Okay, I hope that makes sense. So if you want to know when something's due, check Schoology, check the calendar. Okay, but you check Infinite Campus for what your updated grade is as it stands right now. Okay, so you can see right already over here. Okay, we've got this foreign policy spectrum drop box. Okay, I'll show you what that looks like here in just a little bit. Okay, so The second thing that I want you to study is this little map right here titled Bigger Chunks. Okay, so this is the key, and I'll show you this in just a second. And then this is kind of a practice quiz that you can kind of quiz yourself on. Okay, so when it comes to U.S. foreign policy and when it comes to the United States becoming what became, or what is now, I would say, the continental United States. Okay, there's a number of different land acquisitions that I want you to be familiar with, because we're going to need to know these over the course of the try. Okay, so the 13 original colonies, okay, pretty easy to remember, because I'm sure a lot of you know that the 13 original colonies was on this part of the map. Okay, the Treaty of Paris was everything that was acquired from the American Revolution. Okay, so all of this part over here, okay, was all acquired from the American Revolution. Okay, this big red part right here, the Louisiana Purchase, purchased by Thomas Jefferson in 1803. Okay, should be another part that's easy to remember. It's part of Minnesota is a part of that Louisiana Purchase as well. Okay, the Texas annexation, right here, 1845. Okay, the Mexican Cession, 1848. Okay, important for us to know that part, and we'll understand why here when we get into the Manifest Destiny part of the unit. Okay, the Oregon Treaty signed in 1846. It was basically just kind of stolen from the British. This part was stolen from Mexico, okay, and largely everything that was in the or is in the American Southwest was acquired. Well, we'll learn how it was acquired. But in Gadsden Purchase, 1853, this was had a lot to do with the taking on the part of the Transcontinental Railroad. Okay, Red River Basin, 1818, and then Florida Treaty might be the tougher ones for you to remember. Well, obviously not Florida Treaty, because hopefully you guys know what Florida is, okay? So you're gonna have to know, okay, that when you see this part of a map, that you can identify that as the Louisiana Purchase. What is the quiz gonna look like? It's gonna look exactly like this, okay? So you're gonna have to match which part, okay, with what number. So when it comes to the quiz, it's going to be real easy. It's just going to be matching. Okay, you've got you got 9 on the list. Can you match those 9 to whatever letter is over here? Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, but that's what we're going to be doing later part of the week. Pretty easy to study up on. We'll take that quiz first part of our meeting next week. Okay, and then I'll answer any questions that we have when it comes to that week's assignment. And also give you any feedback that you might need from this foreign policy activity that we're going to start here in a moment, but not yet. Okay. The other folder that you'll see open here is this U.S. history textbook. Now, you don't need to, you're not going to need that quite yet, but it is available there for you. So the entire textbook is listed as such here. I don't like that it says unit first. I want you to pay attention to the chapter. Okay, like if we're doing like a reading guide, typically I'll say that's the 4.2 reading guide or guided notes. Well, that's chapter 4, section 2. So you'd want that particular chapter when we get to that, okay? But just understand that you've got the textbook available to you there. So this presentation right here is what I'm going to show you right now, okay? And what I want you to understand is this part right here. Okay, so in the most part of, for the most part in United States history, okay, the United States has taken a certain role when it comes to how we relate to the world. Meaning, have we taken an isolationist stance where we don't want to deal with people? We're real closed door, like kind of historically, like how China has been. You know, China has typically been, we're not, now I'm speaking in a general sense in which they typically haven't let people in or out, you know, when it comes to trade or whatever it might be. They have said, we are isolationists. We are only going to operate by ourselves, and we're not really going to trade with people for the most part, okay? Otherwise known as the loner, okay? Have we been all about a team mentality with collective security, okay, where we're kind of calling that the team player when it comes to the world, okay? Operating with treaties and alliances and doing what's good for everybody involved. Okay. Now, the further we go to the right here, the more we're kind of acting as this is kind of the nice side of the spectrum over here. This is kind of the not so nice side of the spectrum over here. Okay, where you've got internationalism. Okay, internationalism is you are making sure that people in the world are acting according how you think people should act. Meaning, you know, are they violating the rights of people across the world? Well, then Team America World Police steps in to make sure that the people are following the written or unwritten rules of the world. Okay. An internationalist country would be sure to step in if they thought that genocide was happening. An internationalist country would step in if they thought that there were human rights violations occurring in the world. Okay. But a lot of people might look at an internationalism approach and go, that's not your business. That's not the business of the United States. It's kind of funny now because regardless of how you feel about this, let's say that tomorrow an airplane goes down in the Sea of Japan. The first thing that people would ask is, well, what does the United States think about this? Well, that's not any of our business. That's across the globe. Why is it that people are constantly checking with what the United States has to do with it? And it's kind of because the United States has kind of taken on this role of, well, Team America, World Police, but it's kind of like the United States has taken on this role of the United Nations. Well, that's not supposed to be our role. The governing body of the United States is just supposed to be addressing what's going on in our United States, not the world. Okay. And then I've got Biff from Back to the Future up here, kind of representing an imperialism stance where we're telling people about the world what to do. Okay. And regardless of where you feel the United States is on the political spectrum, there have definitely been times where the United States has been that imperialist country. Okay. Now, you wouldn't hear the word imperialist way back when. You'd probably hear the word colonialist. Now, everybody knows that the United States started out as a colony of Great Britain, right? And as a colony of Great Britain, there was no there was no question that the United States, well, weren't the United States yet, but were colonies of Great Britain. They were a part of the empire, but didn't necessarily have that same have the same rights as like somebody living in Manchester, somebody living in London. Okay, they're a part of the empire, but they weren't, official members of that country, one would say. Okay. Well, colonialism has kind of gone the way of the dodo. We don't see colonialism anymore. That kind of went away at the beginning of like World War I, so to speak. You don't see much colonialism anymore, but you see imperialism. Imperialism is more stealth, is more under the radar. It's more, it's not like we're going to march into a country, put up an American flag and say, you are now a part of the colonial empire that is the United States. Whereas you would have seen that back in the Roman Empire. You would see that back in the British Empire days. Okay. So, for everything that has happened in US history, we should be able to place it on a spectrum just like this. Okay. And what you guys are going to do is something like this. Okay. You're going to pick 10 terms and create your own foreign policy spectrum. Meaning what you are going to do is you're going to take stuff that I give you. I'm going to give you 100 different terms, and you can pick 10, that you're interested in. You can pick 10 that you think fit best, whatever you want to do, but it's going to look a little something like this. Now, I already did this for the first 10 terms, and you guys can use this as an example. That's fine. Okay. Like, for example, Washington's farewell address, he actually got up, gave a speech and said, look, the United States should not get entangled in foreign affairs. It's not good for what this country, what I see for the nation's future. It's not a good thing. So when it comes to foreign policy and when it comes to Washington's farewell address, I would place it right there on isolationism. Okay, because he wanted the United States to be an isolationist country, not necessarily dealing in foreign affairs so much, not necessarily getting wrapped up in politics so much. Okay, but your spectrum should look a lot like this when you're done with it. So what you're going to do, okay, is you are going to make for me, and I put this template right here, okay, on Schoology. So what you'll do is you'll take this PDF, okay, and I'll show you how to do this here in just a second. And you will annotate it basically so that it ends up looking like this. And you can use any of the terms that you see here. Okay. But what I want you to do is explain why you're putting that term where you are in some capacity. Now, if you can write small enough to define Washington's farewell address and then list the reason why you're putting it where you are on this page, so be it. If you need to attach another page to it, you can do that too. Okay. I don't like this as my example here because there's not really enough room to define why Jay's treaty fits as collective security. Okay, so you've got 100 terms that you could use here, or if you're ambitious enough, please pick a foreign policy term of your own. Maybe it's something more recent. Maybe it's the United States involvement in the Paris Peace Accords. Maybe it's the United States involvement in the climate accords or the Iran nuclear deal. Okay, but you're going to research that enough to where you think that you can place it on the spectrum. Okay. So just getting back to this and what this looks like, this is where, we're closing the borders and we're being isolationists. We're not allowing anybody in or anybody out, or we're not trading with nations. Okay. The farther we go on this way on the spectrum, this is more not, obviously we're being more of a bully on this side, but we are dealing with other nations, and we're doing it in kind of a fashion that's like, we don't really care what they think. Okay. And a lot of you might look at this and go, well, some of these can be really confusing. Like, what would be a good one? Let's see, the Chinese Exclusion Act. When it comes to the Chinese Exclusion Act, in one aspect, we're saying that we are being kind of closed door and we're not allowing anybody in. Okay. So from that perspective, we would say that it's kind of an isolationist, loner type thing. But on another aspect, you could look at it and go, well, we're kind of being a bully by only allowing certain people in with the Chinese Exclusion Act. And folks, that's what I want you to think about with the spectrum, is I want you to use your critical thinking to place this on the spectrum where you think it goes. Now, is there a definite right and wrong answer with any of these things? No. Okay, you use your best judgment and use your critical thinking skills to place it where you think it goes. Okay, so when we go back to Schoology here, this is the one that you're going to put into Notability and annotate. And where are you going to come up with the answers to these? You're going to research them online. You're going to look these things up. You're going to ask your any resources that you can. Maybe your parents have a good idea of what specifically this is in context with U.S. history. But you should have enough resources online to be able to research 10 of the 100 that I gave you. Okay, you're going to put that Dropbox right there, and you're going to submit that project for me before next Tuesday, December 8th. Okay, and that's about it. So make sure that you get ready for this vocab quiz by then. Make sure that you study up on the bigger chunk stuff here, because you're going to have about 20 questions on that foreign policy term quiz, and then you're going to have about 9 that you'll have to place on that quiz. Okay, so yeah, I think that's about all I got for today, folks. If you have any questions, please don't be afraid to stick around, and I can answer your questions then.